Today on Life in Motion, Jamie and I talk about
conflict.
Yeah.
Mostly just about conflict.
How you handle conflict, because I don't have any conflict in my life.
Oh, Heather's practically perfect, and she's never upset with anyone, nor is anyone upset with her. So today we talk about me. Just kidding. We do talk about conflict, both of us, how we handle it so differently, and maybe how we're trying to handle it better.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think so.
Okay, so come along with us. Let's talk about it. So I've been thinking about how you walk through difficult times. Quinn and I were just talking about our mid-sized group and talking about conflict. And I think conflict looks like a lot of things. But today I had to go to school and pick Eleanor up out of school and let her know she didn't get the role she tried out for in the school play. And just let her know and then say, do you need a little while?
Yeah.
Do you want to leave with me for a little while and come back? Or are you okay? Because when you go in there, here's what you have to do. You can't tell anyone who got it yet because the rules are everybody finds out on their own schedule. But if anyone asks you, you have to say, I did not get the role I auditioned for. And then you just have to be confident in who you are.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm so embarrassed. And I said, why? And she said, I'm so embarrassed because I've tried out for a lot of shows and you don't always get what you want. And I'm okay with that. But all my friends think I'm getting it. Like her people had surrounded her and been like, you're the best one. How could you not get it? Of course you're getting it. And she said, I'm just embarrassed. Ugh. And I told her, which was so hard, but she and I, sometimes I talk to her like she's older than she is, and I've got to really watch myself because she still has a little girl heart. But I said, I just want you to know I've been praying that whatever would form you to be a Christ follower, whatever God has for you that would draw you closest to him, that's what would happen. Because a role in a school show is not the end all be all, but you leaning into the Lord is. So perhaps this is a time where you can take him your heavy heart and not just about this. But I think this fall, my dad died. Her voice teacher had a brain aneurysm, and that really, really rocked her because she's very close with her voice instructor, and now she didn't get this role. And it's almost more than her little heart can handle right now.
Yeah.
But I was like, but God. So I was glad I picked her up because we were together for about an hour. So the first half hour, I just let her be sad. I just held her hand, and we didn't talk, and she didn't talk. And she didn't say anything negative about the people that got roles, or she was just sad for herself. And then the second half of the time, I coached her up, and I told her how she needed to behave. If she wants to follow Jesus, this is what you do. And it doesn't matter how it feels. But it did make me think, kind of like what Quinn was saying about conflict. Like, how do we do things when we butt up against situations or people and it hurts us? And how do we walk forward really the way the Lord would intend us to? Because the easy thing to do would be like, I'm better than that other person. I don't know what these people thought. And I feel that way in my friendships sometime. When you're faced with talking about something really difficult, is it worth it? Do you just squash it and move on? Because I think sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And honestly, like if I really believe what I say I believe, that like if I can pray for my kids, God, whatever situations you want them to walk through while they're under our care, where we can walk them through and guide them and you can form them, we're here for it. There's so many things to walk through. And to teach your kid, what do you do when you're disappointed, but you know the person that did get it? How do you celebrate them when it feels like inside I don't want to, but I should? How do you do that? How do you handle conflict when you want resolution, but what somebody said to you was hurtful and you want to lash back out or retreat? How do you do it?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't like conflict.
Yeah.
I don't like getting into arguments. Whit loves to argue,
Sure.
and I avoid arguing. And there's not too many things that I, get riled up about that I feel like I need to say something or whatever, I usually just am like, oh, it's fine, or
Yeah.
believe the best or whatever.
You are so good at believing the best, so thanks for that. Carry on.
And, but usually the things that I do get upset about are personal things
Okay.
that I don't know, that I take personally, that I don't know. You didn't invite me to your party. You didn't, or whatever. Those
Yeah.
are the things that I take personally as
Okay.
probably feeling like you've rejected me or judged me, that
Yeah.
I feel like you've judged
Sure.
me, or that you've made me feel less than.
Yeah.
Like you haven't, I don't feel accepted by you on whatever
That is
invisible terms are out there.
That is so interesting. I don't condone or not condone Enneagram. Some people believe in it, some people don't, but sometimes it can categorize your personality a little bit. So I'm an 8. Domineering and big and headstrong and confident, and I'll take charge and all the things. And often that personality also loves conflict, loves to talk and negotiate. But for me personally, I feel very insecure if you question my intentions.
Yeah.
So if you don't know me well enough where you think, oh, her big bravado is she's against me, or she's a bad person, or I had someone say, in the mid-sized group I'm leading told their table leader, who does she think she is? I was like, it just kind of took me aback, because I was like, oh, she doesn't know me, that I really do care.
Yeah.
And so my big personality can come off wrong. And so if you question my intentions, man, I feel incredibly insecure. So it's one of the reasons I said this in the mid-sized group. It's one of the reasons, like, I enjoy sparring like with Whit, because I feel like he's a safe person that knows me.
Yeah.
And knows my heart and my intentions. And so we can adamantly disagree if we needed to.
Oh, yeah.
And I never feel like when I walk away, like, he might be really mad at me or think less than.
He gets you. And so there are times where he's like, stand down.
Yeah, right.
Like he will
right.
tell you you're gone too far.
Right. He will do that. Oh my goodness. He's done that. Not in, and I think this is what you mean, not in conflict with me,
Yeah.
but watching me in conflict with Brian.
Yeah.
We one time, I think enough time has passed that this won't get me in any trouble, but Brian and I were having a really heated exchange on a trip to New York City one time. And I felt misunderstood and underappreciated, and I was just spouting off. And Brian was like a couple of steps in front of me as I was, and Whit looked at me and was like, stop it now, no more. And I was kind of like, who do you think you are? But I was just like, it was taking all that I could to like hold it in. But it's almost like he could see me and see like, I know how that feels, but this isn't going to win for you. This isn't going to work. But I think in this mid-sized group we're talking about, it's based on Jennie Allen's book, Find Your People. And one thing she says is that conflict is worth it when you know the other person is not going to quit on you. Mm-hmm. That was insightful to me.
Yeah.
Because I think far too often my contentious personality wants to just bicker with anybody that wants to bicker. You want to say something? I got something for you too.
Yeah.
But really healthy interaction with other people's, like if I need to confront you on something, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm in this.
Yeah.
And I even think that maybe that's a filter or a gauge we can start with if we need to talk to somebody about something difficult. It's like, I'm committed to our friendship. Mm-hmm. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling misunderstood here or hurt here. I just love to talk about it and have the goal be restoration.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think my biggest hang up in conflict is me taking things personally.
It's hard not to for all of us.
So it's like I can stir up a fight with Whit to play devil's advocate to just for the fun of it. And when I have nothing on the line, it's just kind of like,
Yeah.
I can just cause problems when it's not me. But it's like when it's me, those are very difficult conversations to have. And it really takes a lot of soul searching for me to figure out, why am I upset? Why am I feeling attacked here?
Yeah.
What have you said or what have you brought up that's making me all anxious inside?
I think probably not that we're advising anyone else on how to handle conflict, because I don't know that we're experts.
Far from.
But I think a good rule of thumb probably for all of us as believers is to first wrestle it out with God, not to be so quick to say what you're thinking. But in Jennie Allen's book, in fact, I just read today because we're at the very end of it, just like a good rule of thumb is to sit on it for 24 hours.
Yeah.
To not, no quick judgment in what you're going to say, but then being able to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
Because you had brought up, which I don't know that we were recording yet, but brought up something that Whit had said to our group of friends, like, hey, let's pay attention to this thing. And I did have to read that and think, because it was in a text thread, I had to read that and think, why does this feel weird to me right now? And realize that in the particular situation we were talking, it was a change of, there were more people present than just my people. Mm-hmm. And I had not realized that. So when I take a deep breath and go, oh, I see where he's coming from. And it's not even an attack. It's not, and it is a pay attention. But anytime anybody brings something to your attention, the knee jerk is just insecurity.
Defense.
Or defense.
Mine is defense.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'll tell you why I said that or did that. Or
probably for me, it's probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
Of just like, oh, this is what I do. Oh, you're rejecting me? Not before I reject you. Watch this. Oh my goodness, what is wrong with me?
Yeah. To me, I take it personally, like, you're going to say things that hurt my feelings? Fine, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to leave the room.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to withdraw from this conversation.
Well, Eleanor and I are at odds right now as she's going through a lot of stuff in life, but also body changing and all that. And I'm learning about myself that if you're really close to me, I can cut you with words so quickly. Like Brian's just like, why are you behaving at her level? And it's just like, she hurt me, I'll hurt her worse. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But these words as knives are like flying out of my mouth before I can pull them back in.
Yeah.
I'm also wrestling with this, which I'd love
my expert opinion.
Your expert opinion. I feel like I'm currently walking in a different season than I've ever walked in before. And that is, I used to be able to spout off things like this, and to a certain degree, people would overlook it or like, oh, she's young and headstrong. But now I'm not young. And instead, I'm a leader in the church. Mm-hmm. And I'm a parent to these kids. And my husband oversees your employment status and all the, like, if I am just my raw emotional self, my words carry more weight than they used to. And I feel like, when and where can I be fully myself? And when and where do I need to really rein it in?
Yeah.
Because I'm no longer a 22-year-old, oh, she's just silly.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, I still feel like that little girl.
I still feel like that person.
I feel like her. And so I want to be able to say whatever.
I feel like a lot of times I don't get to be myself.
Yeah,
because you
we're
have to
grown
pay
up.
attention to what how other people are receiving what you're saying. I have to be the mother-in-law now.
Oh, wow.
I don't get to tell my son, hey, did you schedule your dentist appointment? That's not my business anymore.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, we were talking about this off camera, but it's a whole thing as you're raising kids up into, like, I don't think this is embarrassing because it's 2024, but Cooper called me the other day. He's like, what do you do when somebody hands you a check, like a paper check? How do I get this into the bank? And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I never thought to teach him that, but I did tell him, you can look on the app. I think you can electronically deposit it, although I've never done that because I'm 48. I just drive over to the bank and I put it through the little tube, and they say, Mrs. Job, what would you like to do with this money? And I tell them where to put it. But just the things that we're running out of time to teach them things, or we're out of time in your case. We're the more mature generation. How do you
have to be the more mature.
Part of me, when Eleanor didn't get the role that she was hoping for, and Brian told me that she and I both are over the top optimistic, and sometimes our disappointments are self-inflicted. And I'm like, that was rude. But, part of me wants to then get down to her level too. You're right. None of those people were any better than you, which is not true. Your heart just feels like protect yourself.
Yeah.
Just protect. So,
which is, is it a woman thing that our natural instinct to protect ourselves is to tear other people down? I think she got the role, but look at how brassy her hair is.
Yeah, I think it is. And the reason I say that is because, I don't even know Jennie Allen. She probably would like to be my friend. I've read this whole study. We're both 48 years old. It seems like we're navigating some of the same things, but I just read in one of the last chapters, I keep pointing because my book is over there, but one of her last chapters of the book, she was talking about women tend to, and it's the things that you hear, gossip or backbite or whatever. And so you really have to guard your heart against those things and guard yourself to not be that person.
Why do we do that?
I don't know.
Why do we do that?
I don't know.
Some of it is so ugly.
It's so ugly.
Yeah.
Some of it has to be from like way back in
Genesis.
Oh, I was going to say the Stone Age, and you said Genesis. Okay, way back in Genesis.
Same thing.
Okay. Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. I'm like way back in the 1950s. No, just kidding. But men are the protectors of the home in certain ways, but it's the whole phrase mama bear. Women are the protectors of their young in certain ways. I don't know against what? Against evil and against wild animals? Oh my gosh. Last week, just real quick, there was a little bunny that had crawled onto our porch underneath the container where our charcoal and our grill stuff is, like this big wooden box. And our littlest dog was trying so hard to get under there and get bunny rabbit. And Eleanor was being a protector of the rabbit. She's like, do not let the dog kill the rabbit. I cannot stand for this. Why is our dog so evil? And she was crying and flailing about and freaking out to protect what she saw as innocent and vulnerable. And by the way, the dog went around the wooden thing for 2 hours straight. And I was like, thank goodness that dog's going to be so tired tonight.
Yeah.
And then later in the day, the rabbit hadn't gone out and the dog's circling around and sniffing and pawing. And eventually, I don't know where the rabbit went, but he got out and got away, hopefully to safety. I don't know. But it was her female. It's like Chase walked through the room and was like, Eleanor, who cares? The dog's going to get the rabbit's going to die, circle of life, moving on. But she was really feeling protective of the weak, the feeble, the innocent. She was Mother Teresa in that moment. I don't know why, but it has to be in some way we're hardwired to use that for our good. And the shadow side of it is to use it for bad, I would imagine.
Yeah. I feel like women a lot of times are in conflict, and that selfishness, that ugliness, that territorialness comes out when I feel like we don't think that there's enough a pie,
enough blessing to go around.
If all the things were divided up into a pie, and you're watching a play is a pie. Yeah. And there's only 8 roles. There's 8 roles. There's 10 roles. And you have to there's 20 people that have tried out. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, they just see you cutting up the pie, and it's getting down to, am I going to even get my piece?
Yes.
And that we get ugly.
I remember and I may have been 30 years old, with a friend of ours who said something about her desire to I think it was a desire to preach, though, her desire to preach. And I don't have a desire to preach, but I do love to speak. I love to communicate. I love to speak. I love to communicate. I love to have a microphone. I can do it in kids' church. I can do it in a host moment. I could do it
Just give me that
anywhere.
microphone.
Just give me that microphone. I got something to say. And it's not preaching. I don't have a preaching gift, but there is a communication gift. But I remember her saying, and we were probably early 30s, maybe late 20s, and she's on staff with us now. She probably was at the time too. It doesn't matter. But she said, I really have a dream to preach. And I remember leaving feeling offended. Like, you cannot have that desire because I already have it.
Yeah.
And there's no way we're both going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it especially felt like both be able to do that at this small church. We actually go to a very large church, but like, how could we both be the exact same age and both get to do that at the same place? Not possible.
Yeah.
And feeling hurt.
She's
or
taking
sad. She's trying to take
my piece of the pie.
My piece of the pie.
Yeah. And then it turns into a competition of like, I'm going to have to outshine her, outtalk
Right.
her,
Right.
or whatever.
I'm going to have to be better than her. I'm going to cut throat. I'm going to have to do it before her.
I'm going to have some conversations with people to make sure that I
make
get
a way
my
for
spot.
myself.
Yeah.
Theater is not the end all be all, but it has been good for Eleanor, and I've learned a lot of things. So she took some acting classes this summer, and then I have heard that, I guess this is what every acting coach says, because I've heard that Kristen Chenoweth, when she does her Kristen Chenoweth boot camps in Tulsa, her parents talk to aspiring Broadway stars and tell the parents certain things. But it's this thought that whatever role is yours to have is the roles you're going to get, no more and no less. And one thing Eleanor's acting coach told this young kids group this summer was, listen, you don't know what the director's looking for, and it's subjective, and you don't want a role that they didn't pick you for. Because if you got a role that they didn't really pick you for, then you have to be someone you're not to fulfill their desires. You have to act different than your personality or sing different than your voice. And you never want to be in a situation where you're not, he wouldn't use these terms, but where you're not who God made you to be. Mm-hmm. And this friend of mine who's in ministry as well, so she doesn't even know we had this conversation. She shared her heart, and I took it home hurt. Mm-hmm. And now we're both around 48 years old, doing things for the Lord that are really beautiful and very different. Very, very different. And there's room enough for both of us. I still feel that way, though, at this age.
Yeah, there's things that come up and you're just like, wait a second, that was my idea. That was my plan. That was what I was going to do. Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel this with the younger generation, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but I am an advocate for girls. Like, rise up and take your place, whatever place God has for you. I'm not like girl power to the nth degree, but I do believe in young women. And sometimes then I'll hear like a 20-something wanting to do something that I still desire to do. And I think, I laid down all my desires to be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm finally free and I could do it now. And now here you are trying to take my spot. How could I compete with you, 25-year-old? You're obviously cuter than I am because I'm 48. But I think maybe conflict is not even what I am talking about today. Maybe it's take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, to put everything in its proper place, to trust God with the plans He has for me.
One tool that I use somewhat regularly, I haven't in a while because I haven't necessarily felt conflict in a while, is Pete Scazzero's.
I love you so much. I'm like, I felt conflict an hour before I got in here, but okay.
Pete Scazzero's Ladder of Integrity, where you take these questions to examine your inner life, things that you value, and how you want to resolve conflict with another person, budget. With your husband or something like that's an ongoing thing that causes angst in me.
Sure. So do you want to step through the ladder, or are we just going to talk about it a bit and drop it in the show notes?
Let's talk about it for a minute and we'll put it in the show notes.
Because I've got some conflict with that. I'm just kidding. Just some comments, some thoughts.
Because this takes more than 5 minutes to work through.
Yeah.
But you're basically, what's going on inside of me, identifying the feelings inside of you and the lower rungs of the ladder. And so if we use budget, for example, right now the issue on my mind is our budget and the way we spend money.
Yeah.
Pretend you're Whit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're a lot similar, so this is no problem. We've got plenty of money.
Yeah. But I'm feeling like we don't have any money. You just told me that we've got a lot of bills to pay.
Well, we do have a lot of bills to pay, but we still have money. I don't understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't play Whit because what if I misrepresent him? Then he might be
That's
mad.
pretty good.
Okay. I'm thinking, though, just real quick, I'm thinking back to when Brian and I first got married.
Yeah.
And I was laying on my bed in our little apartment crying my eyes out when he came home from work. And he's like, what is wrong? And I'm just like, I just didn't know we were going to get married and be so poor. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's putting all this money into savings because we didn't have very many bills at that time.
Yeah.
So he's planning for the future, building a nest egg. And I'm just like, we don't have any money. And just us not being on the same page.
Yeah.
So that would be a way to not handle the conflict, laying on the bed crying and blah, blah, blah. But instead
Assuming
saying,
something about...
Assuming, yeah.
Yeah. But you're right now the issue on my mind is my part in this is I have not brought this issue up.
Yeah.
I've been holding on to it or resenting you. I mean, that is a huge thing for me.
Oh, that's a good one. Like probably back in those early days of marriage, I could have said to Brian, are we doing okay financially?
Yeah.
Because at this point, first married, we thought he would handle all the bills and the finances. And now I handle all the bills and finances, and we're both a lot more peaceful. But it would have made it, hey, are we doing okay financially? I'm feeling, but
Yeah.
instead I didn't know how to bring it up. So then one day I just explode with emotion and I'm crying.
Yeah. Which, I mean, your dad handled all the finances
Yeah.
and your mom
Yeah.
just, here's your grocery budget. Yeah.
So anyway, okay, carry on.
So then my feelings in this issue are you're just examining your inner life, and then you start to recognize your values. This issue
Yeah.
is important to me because I value saving money.
Sure.
And it violates my values when we're spending all of our money,
Right.
those kinds of things. And so one thing that I could do to improve this situation, that you're bringing this to a person and recognizing you do the ladder of integrity before
Okay.
you get into the conflict, that to recognize what's happening in me, what's my part, instead of blaming the other
Right.
person. You always spend all the money. You always,
Oh, I'm an always and never girl.
yeah.
You know, I would say in that same vein, Heather, that you could probably use Pete Scazzero's ladder of integrity after you've already blown it also.
Oh, sure.
Because I would tend to be a person who wouldn't maybe do the inner work first or introspection and just be like, you never, you always, and cause a big ruckus, whether in a friendship or in a marriage or with a 10-year-old daughter. I would tend to be big and loud and brash and not think through what I should think through first and hurt people with words. And although that's really terrible, it doesn't mean when you mess up, it's all over for you. I think you can go back to the ladder of integrity. What just happened?
Yeah. And it
What's
gives you,
going on inside of me?
and it gives you something concrete to apologize
Exactly.
for, instead of saying, I apologize for hurting your feelings.
Right, which is not an apology, but it's what we do.
It's what we do.
It's just
is
what
to
we do.
say,
I'm sorry you got hurt.
yeah, I apologize for assuming about you.
Yeah.
And then letting my feelings get out of control.
Right.
Or
Or I
whatever.
apologize for that. This would be me personally. I apologize for that angry outburst. I didn't realize at the time, but I was feeling insecure, and I'm not sure why, because you're actually very trustworthy in this situation. I was just feeling, part of that's, Jennie Allen says in her book that if you go to counseling for anything, the first 20 minutes, they're going to say, tell me about your mom and your dad. It's just so much goes back to how we were raised, how we're used to doing things, how we're used to handling conflict. And some of it, it's such a knee-jerk reaction that we don't know what we're doing unless we pause, like Pete Scazzero says, and think about it and ask ourselves some questions. So even if you blow it, you can push pause, go back to that, start figuring out what's happening in your own heart.
That's how you'll take some ground. Is it just me, or does everybody do this? get upset with somebody and then start making up a scenario and a conversation about why they did that and how you're going to tell them off. And
I do think certain personalities are more prone to that than others. I don't do that based on what you just said to the same degree that you do. It doesn't sound like, but I do notice that if I'm really worked up about something, and it's not often, but I was doing this the other day. I was walking in my bathroom, cleaning things up, having a whole conversation out loud, out of my mouth. I was murmuring words and saying things, and it was like to the said person that I was upset with. Like, I can't even understand why you'd think that, because I'm such a great person. Like, just like really talking it out. I'm like, I don't know who do you think you are? Just a me and myself conversation, helping nothing.
usually these are conversations that I have in my head at 2 a.m.
Oh,
where I wake
wow.
up and I'm just like, I can't believe they did that.
You need to get a grounding blanket or something, see if that helps.
Maybe.
They keep showing up on my social medias.
Yeah.
That's the newest rage on helping you deal with inflammation and sleeping better, is have yourself a grounding blanket. So
Okay, I'll give it a try.
instead of doing the inner work that Christ calls us to do,
Yeah.
just buy a blanket and all your worries will go away.
If I start journaling these thoughts before I go to bed, I probably would have better results.
I think that before we wrap up, it's safe to say that whatever kind of conflict you have in your life, I hate that I say this every week, but who are your people you trust that you can talk through things with? Mm-hmm. Because you do need safe people to navigate some of this, to ask some hard questions to.
Well, I mean, I make up scenarios. You know, let's go back to the budget and WIC.
Okay.
He's so selfish. He spends all of our money on the Sunday ticket. You know, it's kind of like,
wow.
whatever.
Yeah.
That I get this scenario going in my head and then I just blow it out of proportion. And I don't have a realistic, and you need people in your life to
Yeah.
tell you, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah. Calm down. Talk to him about it.
Yeah.
We're like, what are you wanting that you don't have right now? Do you need me to ask him for some money for you?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, no.
But
I probably need to talk to him.
But if I'm only internalizing
Yeah.
all of the conflict, then it's conflated to something way bigger than it is.
That's an amazing word. I'm going to take that and put that in my back pocket and use it this week. Conflated. Okay. Well,
Yeah. So, like we say every single week, make sure you've got your communities.
yeah, find some people
Find
that will
some
call you
people.
out on your weaknesses, but help you and love you and point you to Jesus and walk through to a solution. I do have to say to you, thank you, because I feel like even though we don't really have conflict that we deal with, like Jennie Allen's book, like I know you're safe because we're in it. Mm-hmm. I think we live in a society where it's so easy to just cut people off and move on.
Yeah.
And the hard work of saying, I'm sticking with you and in it makes it really beautiful. So thanks for sticking with me. I mean, I'm a handful.
Always.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us this month on Life in Motion, and we'll see you next time.